Why are SOPs important for security? Hey guys, welcome to Advancing Security, your source for safety, pro tips, and content. It's your boy, Jay Gutierrez. And in today's video, we're answering the question, why are SOPs important for security? Now, the purpose of this video is to sell you on SOPs, all right? Everybody needs to have one. In all posts, you need an employee guidebook, and then you need a site-specific standard of operational procedures. And we're going to get into that today because a lot of sites where I've worked at didn't have any. All right? So before we get into that, let me establish some credibility because there's a lot of new subscribers out here, and I don't know when in the future you might see this video pop up on your feed, right? My name is Jay Gutierrez. I have a goal of opening up my own security guard school. And until that day happens, I'm gonna have this channel and I'm gonna upload a few videos when I can. My goal was eventually to open up a school in New York, and the pandemic happened and I moved out of New York. I got certified. I did the training. All I was missing was the license. I already knew where I was gonna open up the school and everything. But you know, life comes with some curves, right? And you just gotta move with it. Got sometimes roll with the punches. Anyways, I'm in Pennsylvania now. I'm an Act 235, means armed security. I'm not currently practicing. However, I do have my license. And I'm just here to help, just like every good security guard out there. I'm here to help. So if you like my type of content, you like my personality, you want to roll with me, want to join my tribe, subscribe. If you have a question, leave it in the comment section or just say thank you and gracias. If it's an interesting question, something that I'm knowledgeable about, I'll probably make a video out of it. Follow me on IG. It's violent_hands, right? Anyways, let's get into this video. I have 4 talking points with this video, guys. The first one is, writing an SOP will cut the learning curve in half, which will mean you'll have a competent, more established employee a lot faster than if you would not have the SOP, the Standard Operational Procedure, or the guide, right? It's gonna make the employee happy, the customer happy, or the client more happy, right? And the owner-operator joyful, right? Because there's less headaches. You got somebody who knows what they're doing. You have something established. This is how you open the doors. These are the doors you should be opening. This is the time that employees come in, guests come in. This is when you should be trespassing people. This is when you should not be trespassing people. These are the gray areas, blah, 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 blah. Instead of, risking your contract, which might be monthly, to be honest, a lot of contracts out there are monthly, on a month-to-month basis, right? Instead of risking that, you are solidifying and establishing protocols, procedures where, the guard can follow and they can have a baseline minimal standard of how to do the job correctly, regardless of what's going on around them, right? And it's going to make for less human errors, which again, when there's so many human errors, they're going to say, change the guard, or that you're going to lose the contract, or retrain the guard, whatever it is, right? Depending on your salesmanship and how mad the client is, they'll be receptive to, your suggestions. So that's number 1. Number 2, helps create a clear line of what are the do's and do nots of security. Let me give you some multiple examples. So before I lost my job, I was looking for work. And around my area, they don't pay well. But, sometimes it is what it is. Sometimes you got to take a crappy job just to get your foot wet and to establish yourself in a particular zone, whatever, right? And this was going to be for security community, kind of like community policing, but for security, right? Because I was not going to be law enforcement. And I'm looking into the pay. The pay wasn't all that great, but the job was 10 minutes from me. I was like, all right, I'm going to save on driving. I'm going to save on gas. Maybe I could be there for 3 months to 6 months. Do my job as best as I can, and then hopefully they have overtime. If not, I'll get a second gig for a while, whatever, right? I'm planning. I'm thinking my next 5 moves, and I'm reading the description, and then there's this one line in there that was like, this job isn't for me. So it was like, security must be willing to unclog toilets, and I was like, I'm sure that job does not end there. I'm sure security is going to have more weird handyman facilities stuff related to that community security job. And here's the thing. That was a community job where there was a lot of elderly people, and security was supposed to do wellness check. I was like, where is it going to end? Is it going to just be unclogging toilets? Next thing, you'll be throwing out the trash for people. What? Next thing, going to be cleaning the dishes? How far will this end? I don't know. But that was a big red flag for me. And I was like, that's not going to happen. Because I once had a job that gaslit the daylights out of me towards the end of the tenure, where I was painting a wall, watching it dry, and watering plants. That's not the job for security. So, I had to do that for a little bit, bite the bullet, and, I had to keep it moving. This is the type of things that happen in security when the agency or the guards doesn't say, hey, man, this is the S.O.P. and I'm going to follow it to a T. This is what legally binds me. This is what the job is supposed to be, and that's it. No more, no less. And that's what happens when you don't have an established S.O.P. The client sometimes will walk all over you as an employee. He will sometimes walk all over your agency or company. So you need to have a clear guide that's fair for everybody when it comes to S.O.P. So that's point number 2. Number 3, protects the business of legality. Now check this out. Let's say I would have taken that community security job with that elderly area, and I'm doing wellness checks. Am I trained in wellness checks? I know what it is, by the way. For those that don't know what wellness check is, it's pretty much law enforcement does this. And it's pretty much when the next door neighbor, Jim, says, hey, Bob hasn't left this house in 5 days. The TV has been on 24/7, and Bob is on a respirator. Bob is sick. Can you check and see if he's alive? They'll call 911. The neighbor will call 911 and do this. And most of the time, they'll knock on the door, see if Bob's alive. Bob doesn't answer. Now they don't know. They're like, okay, something's up with Bob. Maybe he's dead. But the neighbor just can't kick down the door and be like, boom, Bob, you alive? That doesn't happen that way. You have laws and stuff. You have trespassing. So you call the cops. You tell them, like, hey, what's going on? They'll knock on the door. Depending on the circumstances, they'll use their senses. They'll listen. They'll smell. They'll walk around the house to see what's going on, because now they have a reason to walk around the house and be like, yo, we heard Bob might be dead, by the neighbor who's known him for 12 years. So they do what they got to do. If they don't establish no lifeline, they'll contact family members, and then push comes to shove, they'll kick the door down. Sometimes they'll call firefighters or whatever, right? So everybody gets a little piece of the pie. And they'll get their battle axe and go, gang, go in like Vikings. Okay, going back to the whole thing, what if I have to do that? Will I have to give CPR? If I find there's a Bob on the floor, barely grasping for air. But he still has a weak pulse. Where will be my involvement? And if that's not in the S.O.P., should I get involved? Because if I get involved, for example, I have CPR training. It's expired right now because it's from New York from 2019. I know how to give CPR. I was training it for infant, child, and adults. I know how to use the AED, right? However, there was jobs I had that wanted me to have that training, but they didn't want me to use it if something were to happen, because they were in fear. They were fearful of lawsuits. Because when you give CPR to somebody, doing compressions on them, you have a great chance of breaking their chest cavity, right? That's a liability for a security company. Some people are okay with that liability. They have good lawyers, and they say, yo, if something happens, like if you're working, for example, in a hospital, I want you to give CPR. But if you're not working in those type of places, they're going to be like, don't do it. And it's in your contract that you should be certified in it. However, it's not in your standard operational procedures or emergency action plans to do it. So that's the company letting you know as an employee, you should not do it because it's not written there. And that's that's the shady part of SOPs as well. When you're a guard, you're supposed to follow what's there to a T as best as possible. And if it's not there, don't do it. All right. This is not like Subway sandwiches where they say they'll make you tuna melt, and they'll put avocado on it now because the client asked for that. No, you do no more, no less than what the SOP says, right? So that's number 2. It protects you. That's number 3. It protects you from legality, man. You gotta be mindful of that stuff, especially when it comes to certifications and licenses, because some things expire, and you may have. I have a bunch of licenses that I have to keep track of. I had 6 or 8 of them when I was in New York, and I have to keep track of them. It becomes overwhelming, and if the job doesn't need it, you drop it. Then you got to take it off your resume because it's no longer up to date. Stuff like that happens, and it's hard also for a company to keep track of all those things. I think now it's easier with software, obviously, but whatever. And my last and final point: allows you to replicate knowledge and scale your business. Let me explain what that is. Replicate. That means you copy paste. That means you can give them the client a competent employee every so often, even if the person leaves or they get fired. Whoever gets put in that booth or in that lobby or in that post, they'll be able to do their job because you established the SOP. The SOP will allow you to train people with the SOP, and you could check it off. Now, what I mean by scaling is that if a client just wants an SOP this thin, right? It's like I want to say about 12 pages in this clipboard. You could charge maybe $25 an hour, right? And you make a profit. The guard is okay with the job because it's not overwhelming. But if the client wants to go really deep in detail and wants the guard to do a lot of things, and you got to write an SOP this thick, you're gonna be like, wait a second, Papa, that's a $40 job. I'm not paying no guard $14 an hour for that job. Once they see this SOP this thick, they're gonna be like, you're gonna have to pay me way more. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of stuff to memorize. Matter of fact, this is what a supervisor or a manager should know about a post. A regular guard, for the most part, should be about maybe this thin, maybe half of this. Maybe have this, depending on how big the page is, right? This is a small book. So, a manual this size, it's okay. And then the way you write it, we'll probably get that into another video in the future. But this is why SOPs are important. You want to be able to cut the learning curve in half. You want to be able to scale your business. You want to have a fair, concrete baseline of understanding what the job is so everybody's on the same page, right? That means client, employee, and owner operators. And then you want to protect yourself from any mishaps. If the client wants a CPR trained employee guard, they're going to have to pay for that training. Or you're going to have to find a guard that has those certifications and that they're up to date. And then this becomes there's some complications there, right? So it helps you in all those fronts. Guys, if you found value in this video, please press like, leave a comment down below saying thank you and gracias, or ask a question about security management or how to be better guards, whatever, or martial arts self-defense. And subscribe if you have not. Take care, so love yourself. You can follow me on IG, Valiant_Hands. Peace. Ciao, lo quiero mucho. Adios.